Bat family, and welcome to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. You can visit our website at holybatcast.com and also find us all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast, you'll find us. If you're a big fan of the show and you want to support us, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And as always, a huge thank you to our patrons. You guys rule. You make it so much easier to keep the show going, and I just hope you know how appreciated you are. So big thank you to our patrons. You guys are amazing. We're also part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can check out those shows at rf4rm.com. And I'm your Bat host, Andy DeGenova. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Letterboxd. It's just my name, Andy DeGenova. This episode, we're going to finally get to another animated film. We're going to talk about Battle of the Super Sons. We're also going to direct. We're also going to... Sunday mornings, man. We're also going to review, that's it. We're going to review the next episode of The Batman, which is called Bird of Prey. And then we're going to read your emails, as we do. Joining me for all that fun, because it is Sunday morning. He always joins me on Sunday mornings. It's become a tradition. It's Jamie Drewley. Hi, Jamie.
Well, I am easy like Sunday morning, so.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'll tell you, I was laying in bed about an hour ago, and I was like, why can Jamie only record on Sunday mornings?
Well, I mean, I could do it at night if you don't want to run the risk of me falling asleep by 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
It's true. It's true. It's all good. It's a sacrifice we must make to keep the show going.
I've joined the old people's club. I go to bed between 8:30 and 9:30 at night. I should say I go to the bedroom. Usually I'll watch TV for a half hour or an hour until I fall asleep. But, it's like I want to eat dinner at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I get up between 4:30 and 5:30 in the morning. So, yeah, I mean, gray dawn is upon me. That's all I can say.
Oh, no. Do you know what Catherine calls that?
No.
Dad flex. Of when you humble brag about how early you got up.
That's pretty much where I'm at.
Her dad does that all the time. Is we'll be waking up at 9 o'clock, and he'll be like, "Well, I've already been up 2.5 hours." It's like, well, good. I was much happier asleep, so I don't know. I don't know why you're so proud of yourself.
I wish I wasn't programmed this way, but for some reason, that's just where I'm at now.
Well, I feel like you've been getting up early, for work many, many, many years. So I think your
just
internal clock
is to it now.
Yep.
So on the nights when I have to work until 7 p.m., boy, that's a real drag for me.
Might as well be doing the midnight shift.
Exactly. So actually my oldest daughter, Quinlan, has taken to really making fun of me lately because I drive a Lincoln, which is known as an old people's car.
Oh, yeah.
And I was complaining, it's a hybrid. And, for anybody who doesn't know hybrids, when the temperature drops, the hybrid gas mileage goes down. Like the electric motor just doesn't work as efficiently. So the gas mileage isn't as good.
That makes sense.
And I was complaining because when it was warm outside a couple of weeks ago, my gas mileage was up over 46. And now that it's cooled back off a little bit, it's down to 43-ish. And I was complaining with her in the car the other day, and she's like, that's because you drive an old people's car, and like you, it wants to be in Florida right now. Oh, girl, the dagger in my heart. Oh.
You know what? Here's the crazy thing. I remember when I didn't care about gas mileage or how many miles I was putting on my car. I was oblivious. I was oblivious to both of those things, happily oblivious. And now I'm always looking. Why do I care? Why do I care? It's not going to change.
Well, it drives me crazy because I drive way differently than my wife does. And when she takes my car for a day or two, I get it back. All of a sudden, my gas mileage goes from somewhere between 43 and 46 to about 35, and I lose my shit every single time.
It's so stupid, but I get it. Anyway, we got a little bit of housekeeping to do before we get to the main event. We have a couple things we need to plug. The first thing we got to plug is our good friends over at Manscaped.com. So summer is coming, y'all. It is May. So are you guys ready to unveil your beach bods? Manscaped is here to ensure that your body is ready for the wild with their game-changing full-body grooming and hygiene products. Don't be the guy at the beach with Austin Powers chest hair. And if you grow some winter man tits, the least you can do is make sure they're hairless. Wow. They never cease to amaze me.
They just don't hold back, do they?
I know. You know what I think of when I think of man tits now? I think of that one scene in Jason Lives, Friday the 13th, part 6, because there's that whole behind the scenes story of like they had one Jason and he shot the one scene and they called him Man Tits Jason and then they recast him.
I don't know
Anyway,
anything about that. But
anyway, yeah, look it up when you get a chance. That's neither here nor there, but it's time to get ready for hot guy summer. So go to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using that promo code BATSCAPED. BATSCAPE, 20% off, free shipping, and they got everything that you need to look your best this summer, and not only look your best, but to smell your best. So one of the best things that you can check out is the Performance Package 4.0 because it comes with a little bit of everything. It comes with the Lawnmower 4.0. It comes with the Crop Preserver, the Crop Reviver, the Weed Whacker 2.0, and the Travel Bag, and Manscaped Boxers. It's a little bit of everything. They got all kinds. Ooh, there's a nail kit now? Manscaped Shears 2.0 nail kit. I didn't know about that. I might have to look at that because you know what? Like sometimes as guys, we neglect our toenails and we shouldn't. We really shouldn't.
Very true.
They can get real gnarly. So I got to check out their nail kit because my hunch is if it's like their other stuff, it's probably really good. And if you're just in the market for a trimmer, check out the Lawnmower 4.0. It doesn't get any better than that. They have everything that you need to stay well groomed in the summer. And again, at Holy BatCast, we can save you 20% off and get you free shipping. Just use that promo code BATSCAPED because if you do that, you're getting quality products, you're doing something nice for yourself, and you're supporting Holy BatCast in the process. So everybody wins. It would mean the world to us if you go check out Manscaped, see if there's anything that strikes your fancy. If there's not, that's fair. That's okay. No pressure. But their stuff is really great. Give it a shot and use that promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off. So please go to manscaped.com and check that out. And trim your chesticles with the besticles. Yeah. All right.
Their marketing, man, I love them. They're creative. You remember it because, wow, they do it like nobody else.
I'll tell you this morning, something I didn't think I was going to be saying on Holy BatCast is winter man tits. I'll tell you that much.
That was my band in college.
I mean, it's going to be mine now. So anyway, good stuff there. Go to manscaped.com. Check that out. Also, Jamie, you've got something you want to tell us about. Just kind of a friendly heads up to our Batman fans out there.
Yeah, so this isn't really a sponsorship thing, but it was something super cool my wife did for me that I think a lot of you out there would appreciate. So I'm going to tell the story just as quickly as I possibly can. A couple of months ago was my birthday, and my kids gave me some gift cards for car washes and iTunes and stuff like that, which was all super cool, super sweet. But my wife says to me, I'm working on your present. I'll get back to you later. And I'm like, okay, cool. And like 6 to 8 weeks later, I'm like I was actually thinking about it, and I was like, I think she forgot to get me a birthday present. And I was like, you know what? No big deal. I'm sure I've done worse to her over the almost 30 years that we've been together. So no big deal. So then one day I come home from work. She's like, I was upstairs changing clothes. She's like, you need to come down here. I got something. I was like, okay. So I walk downstairs and she hands me this package. And inside this package are 3 t-shirts. And what she did was had shirts printed with covers of some of the comic books that I have in my stash down here in the basement. So I got a one that's the cover of Vengeance of Bane. I got one that is the cover of Spider-Man versus Wolverine. And I got one that's the Detective Comics 27 cover, the Frank Quitely variant with Batman and Robin's faces on it. And she had these printed onto t-shirts, and they are amazing looking. They're super high quality. They're beautiful. And she had this done from somebody that she knows, who is I'm seeing if I remember the details correctly. She's not here for me to double check this, but if I recall correctly, she's a military wife, and they have, I believe it's an autistic child that she stays at home and takes care of, and kind of runs this business with the printing and clothing just kind of out of her home by, a lot of the stuff's by request. She has a lot of kids clothing and bows and shirts and pajama outfits, things like that on the website that are really neat and cool. But also she does these custom requests. So if you guys have anything you want it done on shirts, they can help you out with this. So if any of you are interested, I want to say the cost on it was somewhere around I want to say like $30-ish for the shirts, which, for any of you that buy these geek t-shirts out there, it's tough to find them much less than that anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty standard.
Yeah. And you can get more, if you can get her a really good, solid, high quality, high resolution image, she can basically print it for you on a shirt, and they look great. So anyway, if you're interested in doing that, they have a Facebook page. It's J&O, that's an ampersand, J&O Clothing Company. And they have a website. It's jandoclothingco.com, jandoclothingco.com. And you have to kind of message her and say, this is what I'm interested in doing, then get her the image. And the whole process takes a few weeks. She's not a mass production kind of a thing, but if you're patient and you want something unique and unusual, my wife loves the TV show Atlanta, and she got a shirt for herself from this woman that looks exactly like one of the shirts that she saw a character wearing on Atlanta because she thought it was hilarious. And hers looks exactly like the one on the TV show. So again, the work is great, but don't be in a hurry to get it. But if you get a chance, check out J&O Clothing. They can certainly do pretty much whatever you need. Just get in contact with her and see what shakes out.
Awesome. Very cool. And it was such a thoughtful gift from your wife.
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So
she did tell me about it. She was like, do you have any ideas for which covers? And I was like, God, like I kind of froze. I was like, oh, Dark Knight Returns. But I know she was going for something more obscure than that. So
yeah, she wanted to make sure it was something that like wasn't
that you couldn't just buy,
readily found anywhere you go, kind of a thing.
For sure.
These are things that I'm actually going to send you the image that I took of all three of the shirts if you want to put it out on Twitter so everybody can at least see, because way more people follow you than follow me on Twitter. So I just sent it to you on our little message thing later on. If you think about it, put it out there so people can at least see the results of what I got.
Well, I'll probably wait until I publish the episode, because even though we're recording on Sunday morning, people probably going to hear it for a couple of days, because last week there were 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's right.
It's too many. It's too much of listening to me, so I like to give it a little buffer.
Yeah, all cool, all good.
But yes, I will share this with along with the episode. So very cool, very fun. All right, Kimbra Drewley.
My wife.
She's cool. She's tied for the second best wife in the world.
I was just thinking the same thing about Catherine. How amazing.
Oh no. Anyway, and then one other little thing, and this is a fun thing, guys, because we're about to talk about Battle of the Super Sons, which is an animated DC film. But just this week, they released another animated DC film, and that is Justice League X Ruby, Superheroes and Huntsmen Part 1. So this is a very anime Justice League Ruby crossover movie. It just released last week, and if y'all remember, the last one that got released, which was Batman the Doom That Came to Gotham, we were lucky enough to get a bunch of digital codes for a giveaway. And Warner Brothers and their marketing partners were kind enough to do the same for Justice League X Ruby. So if you're listening to this and you haven't picked up Justice League X Ruby just yet, it's coming. We're going to do another giveaway the same way we did with the Doom That Came to Gotham. So keep an eye on our Twitter page, Holy BatCast. Because once I publish this, like I did last time, about 24 hours later, I'm going to put the giveaway up on Twitter. It's super simple. All you have to do is make sure you're following us and retweet the giveaway. That's it. And then from there, we randomly choose 5 winners. 5. So you've got a pretty good chance. I will say some folks last time, they did retweet, but they didn't follow. And so they didn't win. Because when I put it in the little randomizer, I was like, oh, great, this person won. And I checked and they weren't following. So I was like, no, there's literally only 2 rules. It's very simple. So follow the Holy BatCast Twitter, retweet the giveaway tweet that will come out just after this episode publishes. And then we will choose 5 winners to win Justice League X Ruby on digital. So please keep an eye out for that. We love getting a chance to be able to do these giveaways. So a huge thank you to WB, a huge thank you to, again, their marketing partners for sharing these with us at Holy BatCast. We're happy to get the word out about the animated movies, and it's a great incentive for all of you to, help get the word out about them. And at the same time, you get a chance of winning it yourself. So keep an eye out for that. Justice League X Ruby. I'll tell you, I haven't watched it yet. Just full disclosure, I will get to. But you all know that with the animated movies, I'm not always like first day watch type thing because, there's a lot to watch out there. but I will get to it, and it looks very unique. So it's kind of like if you're an anime person, I think this is going to be up your alley. I'm very curious to think what I'm going to think, because I was surprisingly happy with Catwoman Hunted, and then not super into Batman Ninja. So as far as like the anime DC stuff, could go either way. So we'll see how this one goes.
Regardless of what I wind up thinking of it, I'm delighted that they keep making content like this for the people who are into that, because I feel like I'm almost in the minority not being a big anime fan these days. Like, especially with like the younger generation, like people I would say probably in their early 30s on back, like anime is like their jam. They love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I
cool
never
that
want
they
to take
keep
that
doing
away
it.
from anyone. Cause just because it's not my thing, I mean, for everybody that's into it, that's awesome. Like I've tried, just not my thing. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So not every flavor works for everybody.
Menus at restaurants, my friend.
Exactly. But it's very cool. And again, like I do think that's the fun of the animated movies, is they get to play with a lot of styles. They get to play with a lot of characters. They get to play with a lot of audiences. It gives them the flexibility to do a lot of stuff. One of these days we'll get around to talking about the Doom that came to Gotham. And that was also a very different take on Batman. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that one, but that one was very unique too. And it's something that you're never going to invest $200 million to do it on the big screen. But these animated movies allow them that freedom to play with the genre and do unique things. And so everybody's mileage may vary, and that's totally fine, but it gives you that option. And for the people who see those and they're like, oh my God, this is like my thing, I'm glad that the stuff gets made.
Absolutely.
Cool. So anyway, again, keep an eye on the Holy BatCast Twitter for the Justice League X Ruby giveaway. And again, big thank you to them for allowing us to be a part of that. And I'm just happy to share that and pay it forward to all you nice people out there who listen and support the show. If we can get you a free movie, that's terrific. We love that. Free. It's the best price. But speaking of direct to video animated movies, that's what I'm saying. One came out last year, and I don't even think it's been a full year. So in Holy BatCast timing, we're like ahead of the game. This actually came out last October, but because I knew that this episode was going to sit for a couple days, I didn't want it to be too time sensitive, and so we're finally going to get a chance and talk about Batman and Superman: Battle of the Super Sons.
Wow, we're actually getting to one in like its first 6 months. That is,
I know, it's amazing. This one came out October 18th of 2022, and kind of like what I was just saying about the animated movies, this is one where they took a lot of chances to tell a different kind of story, to do a different kind of animation, to do a different style. How did that work for us? Hang tight, we're about to tell you. This was directed by Matt Peters. It was written by Jeremy Adams. And we've got, who has now become just part of the DC family, Jack Dylan Grazer. Freddie Freeman from Shazam, he is Jonathan Kent in this. Jack Griffo is Damian Wayne. Laura Bailey is Lois Lane. Troy Baker is Batman. Travis Willingham is Superman. Nolan North is Jor-El. Tom Kenny is Green Arrow and the Penguin. And so, again, it came out in October. We will start spoiler-free, and we'll give you a spoiler warning as we jump in. But, Jamie, I have no idea what you thought of Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons, because, we've been kind of quiet. So I'm very curious. Spoiler-free, what'd you think?
So I just watched it for the first time Friday. This is Sunday as we're recording this, so 2 days ago, in preparation for the show. And I guess the best way that I can put it is this felt like an extended pilot for an animated series that I would make appointment viewing, because I really, really like this thing a lot. It was a lot of fun. So I believe it was Tomasi and Gleason that were doing the Super Sons book that was running in the Rebirth era for DC a couple years back. And I was a big fan of the book, and this really felt a lot like that to me. The characterizations of Jonathan and Damian felt very much like they did in that book. Their relationship, how they bounce off of each other, play off of each other, and they develop a tight friendship, even though it is contentious at certain points. But they're very good friends, and I always loved that dynamic. And I think this movie hit it perfectly. Uh, I do have a couple of nitpicks about it, but they are just that. They're nitpicks. One of them is my usual nitpick that you guys are probably all sick and tired of hearing from me for the last 9 years or however long it's been that we've talked about them. But yeah, I really like the animation in this. It was unique. It wasn't much like what we've seen in any of the other DC films, but I don't know that it's going to work for everybody. But I thought it was really good. Andy, you're a better animation historian than me, but kind of the vibe that I got from it, at least in certain ways, was like almost like a Don Bluthish style, at least as far as like the characters' expressions and their mouth movements and things. It just, for some reason, invoked that to me. And, I always liked that stuff back in the day, so I had no problem with it here. And I thought the action was really good. I thought the story more or less was sufficient to pretty good. Very entertaining. Again, if this was an animated series, I would sit down every single week and watch the episodes, as they aired or not very long after, because I just had a great time, and I'd love to spend more time in this world with these characters the way they're presented here.
Awesome. I think that's a great description, actually. Yeah, it's like an animated pilot for a series that isn't really a series, but we kind of wish it was after watching it. I did watch this one pretty close to its release, actually, as it turned out. I think I was traveling, and so, that's when I can catch up on things, especially DC animated movies, is on the plane. And I remember watching this pretty soon after it was released, and I have mentioned it on the show, I think, somewhere around that time, because I had just watched it. This is great. I think this is the best DC animated movie we have had in years. And that's not to say we haven't had good ones over the past few years. I just think this one's that good. It was such a nice surprise where I was blown away by it. Actually, maybe it was when we talked about Green Lantern that I mentioned this one of like, oh, we got to get to Battle of the Super Sons because it's actually really good. Because I watched this and Green Lantern Beware My Power like back to back on that same trip, and I watched this and I was like, holy crap, it's great, that was amazing, now I can't wait to watch Green Lantern. And then I was like, that one I did not love.
I was gonna say, you should have watched Green Lantern first.
Yeah. But no, this one is terrific. Like you said, it's kind of famous now because it is the first of these direct-to-video animated movies that was done using CG. So it is computer generated, but they do that cell shading on top of the CG to still give it something of a hand-drawn look. And I think that the style they use and the animation itself is beautiful. I was a little worried that it was going to be CG because I feel like direct-to-video CG can often be a little clunky and not look so great. I think they did a great job here of making it 3D, making it computer generated, but having enough of that like hand-drawn texture and detail on top to have all the characters emote, to have them look and feel like real characters. And yeah, I think that the designs are great, the style is great, and the animation is great. And like you said, I think the characterizations overall are terrific. I did not read the Super Sons book, so obviously I know what it is and I know the gist of it, but I don't think I read any issues. Because I'll be honest, like y'all know Damian's not my favorite, and like Jonathan Kent, I could also take or leave. Like neither of them are my favorite characters, and so the book was never a priority for me. But just knowing from what I know of the characters and of that book, and then I watched this, I'm like, yes, this feels spot on. It feels like the right dynamic between the two of them. And what starts as a tentative and kind of forced partnership and then becoming a true friendship, I think is done really well throughout. The action is great. Batman and Superman are in it just enough. And I think that they're both great. I think the story is very good. I don't know if it's the best story in the whole universe, but I think that for the sake of this movie, it works really well. And I think it's a great setup for why Jonathan and Damian have to band together. So yeah, I barely have any nitpicks. I've got one or two little ones, and one of them is like, I don't know, I don't even know if I could hold it against the movie. It's just me wanting more, which is, a good problem to have. No, this one's excellent. I think Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons, if you guys have not seen it, I can't recommend it enough. Even if you've sort of fallen out with these animated movies because there's too many to keep up with, or for whatever reason, make an exception. Watch this one. It's
And
great.
it's not a continuity one in relation to the other one. So don't feel like you're going to be lost watching this without having to see the 6 or 7 that came before it. Like, it's very much as
Stands on its
presented
own.
a standalone.
Yep.
Yeah. You don't need Flashpoint through Green Lantern, Bree Where My Power to be able to understand what's going on here. It's a very standalone, easy to follow, and it's certainly, in my opinion, worth your time.
Absolutely. Yeah. An hour and 19 minutes. So it's a pretty breezy watch. It is one of those where, we've talked about Beware My Power, which didn't really work for us. And that one I think was an hour 30. And we're like, oh man, like this one's a little too long. And this one, I'm like, no, this is where I could have used the extra 10 minutes because I loved it and I would like just a little more. And you said it's standalone. It absolutely is. You can just watch this on its own. I highly recommend you do so. But it's so good. I hope it doesn't stand alone for long.
Agreed.
I
And
hope we get another one. I hope we get the return of the Super Sons, because this really is the origin of them coming together. But I want to see the further adventures of the two of them. And I'll go a step further. I want to see a Superman proper movie done with this characterization and this style. And I want to see a Batman proper movie done the same way. I kind of want to use this as a launching point to do a couple other movies in this continuity with this style, because that's how much I enjoyed it.
I don't disagree at all. I think I'm right there with you on that. I'll also throw this out, with the exception to one of my nitpicks, and it's not spoilery. I'll just get it out of the way now so I don't have to talk about it more. I don't know why they feel compelled to continue to use this language and push those boundaries in these movies, especially on this one, because it's bloody near a perfect family style animated film where an adult can enjoy it very easily, but also you can watch it with your 9-year-old and enjoy it very easily, with the exception of these language boundaries that they continue to push. And especially in this film, I found it very unnecessary and egregious that they continue to do that for no reason other than they just think they can.
I don't remember language in this.
Well, so there was one where I think the S word gets thrown around. I think Lois calls somebody an a-hole. She gets ready to say mother F, and something gets cut out before it gets finished. So
that one I remember, but I don't remember the others. But
well, I mean, you're
I missed
desensitized to it, so
it could be that too. At this point, I'm just so used to it. But I mean, I do agree with you in concept, because I think we have shared that nitpick for years now about these, where I was like, why? Like, it just feels forced and unnecessary, and neither of us are prudes by any sense of the word.
No, we throw these words around pretty liberally when we're not trying to record a somewhat family-friendly podcast.
But you're right. When you watch something like this and there's a random shit, you go, wait, what? Like, it's distracting more than anything.
The point is, they could easily. This is not a mature level story or any of that going on in this film, with the exception of those things, and it does nothing whatsoever to further or expand anything in them doing that. All it does is take away some of your audience, because there are some parents that don't want their kids around that. And if their kid sits down and watch that, the first time one of those words flies out, off goes the TV and switches over to Teen Titans Go or whatever, which I don't get it. I just simply do not get it.
Yeah. I mean,
like, I've heard the story for years now that the Transformers movie from back in 1986, the animated movie that got released in theaters, which I love. I'm a huge fan of that movie. I saw it in the theater. Love it to death. But there are 2 swear words that are thrown in that movie, at least in the theatrical version. There was a home video release where they cut it out. And the reason that they did that was because it was going to get a G rating, and they wanted it to have a PG rating, because somehow or another they felt like it was going to get on more screens with the PG than the G. Like, theaters at the time, maybe on G-rated movies, they didn't want to run them after like a certain time of day, like maybe 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And they wanted it to have the screen times for the whole day. So they did those 2 words to get it that rating. Well, this is a direct to video film, so I know that can't be a reason behind it. It it feels very unnecessary to me is all I'm trying to say. And it just kind of bugs me somehow.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. And I was going to say this one is PG-13, but to your point, it very easily could have been PG. And especially because the two main characters are kids, it would just be a little more, I think, attractive to kids if it was PG,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, fair enough. I get that. Again, I didn't even notice. I watched it twice and I didn't notice, but maybe I'm just desensitized to it.
And it's not the end of the world. I'm not like pissing on this thing or anything because of it. It's just one of those things. You guys have heard me say it for years. It just bothers me because I don't think it needs to be there.
Yeah. Well, because it's distracting. It's weird. Well, let's get over the spoiler wall. The things I have to say, I don't even know if they're spoilery, but just for the sake of safety, just in case, I want to get over the spoiler wall because I'm going to share my nitpick that is not really a nitpick with you.
Okay.
But I'm glad that you liked it because I really liked it too. And it was such a nice surprise that when it was over, I was like, holy crap, like that was great. And it has been a long time since I felt that way. Usually they end and I go, oh, that was fun. Like it was more like, oh, that's pretty good. Pretty good is where I feel like most of these land for me. And so to get one where I was like, oh my God, that was great. I loved it. Was so nice. And so, yeah, Battle of the Super Sons is terrific if you're a Batman fan, if you're a Superman fan, and especially if you're a Jonathan Kent and Damian Robin fan. I think you'll be very happy. If you're worried about the animation, don't be. You get used to it in 2 seconds, and it's really beautiful. So there's a lot to like here, and I highly, highly recommend it. But we want to be able to speak freely, so we're going to get over that spoiler wall. So spoilers are fair game in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, usually I start with 3, but that's fine. So, real quick, just because I don't really follow Jonathan Kent's comic book world. Does he go by Superboy? I know that there's like a grown-up version that's like Superman now. It's like another Superman, right?
Yes, but I haven't read any of those. But I do know he's since made the transition to that where he was like the new Superman or whatever.
Right. Like I've been reading Nightwing and like there's like the grown up Jonathan Kent in that, but I was like, did he grow up fast? I feel like Super Sons wasn't that long ago. So
No, it
again,
wasn't.
I'm not following the comic book trajectory, but I just was like, oh, he was a kid a couple years ago and now I feel like he showed up in Nightwing as a grown man, but anyway, I just thought maybe you would know. Someone out there knows better than we.
I don't. I feel like the Superboy moniker may have been thrown around. It's been a couple of years since I've read them. So that Gleason Tomasi series, again, it's fantastic. I recommend it. But for some reason, it didn't last very long. Like I don't feel like it lasted more than about 12 or so issues.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I thought it went longer.
They revamped some things. DC's and all the comic book companies really are just constantly in flux and rebooting and everything else. So. Again, I feel like track it down on DC Universe, man. The book's worth your time, and it won't take you long to read the whole series, and it's terrific. If you like this movie, I feel like this movie is at least somewhat based on what that comic book run was, character-wise. But yeah, I would love more of this. Can we get more of this?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And honestly, my question about Superboy was not even my nitpick. I just genuinely didn't know because in the movie they kind of play it as like this ongoing thing of like, what should I be called? Should I be called Superboy? But that's already taken. Should I be called this? And they never answer the question. And I was like, is there an answer? I don't know the answer. But again,
maybe
I
that
think
was
it's
in the
Superman
book that way
now.
too. I don't know. Now it is, but in the era where this story and the book that I'm talking about took place, I want to say he may not have even had a moniker that was specifically put to him because they were kind of just doing like these smaller adventures kind of off on their own thing. The two dads were kind of overseeing things here and there, but like once in a while they'd sneak out and kind of, get into trouble, if you will, on their own. So I don't remember if they ever specifically put a moniker on him during that entire story. So maybe that's kind of what this was nodding at with that question he posed.
Okay. Well, cool. Just curious. It is funny though that Jack Dylan Grazer as Jonathan Kent, and he's great, by the way. He's so good, because Jonathan Kent really is the main character of the story. But I do appreciate him trying to come up with superhero names for himself, just the same way Freddy did in the Shazam movies, where it was all about, wait, we'll call you this, we'll call you this, we'll call you this. So I thought that was a fun little nod. The movie really, again, it's Jonathan Kent's story. I think they do a nice job taking their time setting up where he is. The fact that at the beginning of the film he doesn't know that his dad is Superman, and that's what kicks us all off as he finds out he has his own powers, etc. But I think that for the movie's sake, it makes a lot of sense to use Jonathan Kent as our endpoint, and then we sort of go on the journey with him. And so we get some little tastes of Batman's world throughout. There's an amazing kind of intro scene of Batman taking down the Penguin that I freaking loved. So good.
I don't know what I love more, that scene itself or the commentary from Superman and Clark or Superman and Jonathan as it was going on.
I know,
it was fantastic.
That scene is amazing because not only do we get this really great badass Batman in Gotham taking down the Penguin and his henchmen scene, but you're right, the color commentary between Superman and Jonathan is a lot of fun too. But I love that, and we have the Batcave, but then they're out of Gotham pretty quick. So my nitpick that's not really a nitpick is I'm like, man, that stuff was so good. I just wish we had spent a little more time in Gotham. I just wanted to see more of this Gotham. And again, that's not the movie's fault because the movie's got so much time to tell the story. It's the greedy Batman fan in me going, oh my God, that stuff was so good. I wanted a little more of it.
Yeah, totally. I'm right there with you. But apparently Gotham City smells bad. So maybe they just didn't want to spend too much time there because of that.
Seems about right. I did appreciate that as they were heading into Gotham and Jonathan going, what is that smell? And Superman goes, it's Gotham City. And he goes, why doesn't someone do anything about this? And he goes, someone is. And then it cuts to Batman chasing down the Penguin. And I'm like, oh, that's terrific.
I would love to see a cold opening in a live action movie that just went like that.
Oh my God, I know. It's crazy. Fans have been asking for it for years, and we've never. We kind of get it in The Dark Knight with the Scarecrow, kind of.
Yeah.
But yes, more of that, please. And yeah, that scene is just so good that's what made me go, oh, I want a whole Batman movie done just like this, because that gave me a taste of what it could be, and it was so well done. And I'm like, yeah, just more of this. So yeah, I think it was awesome. And then to have the Penguin in that cameo, have Tom Kenny, who I think we mentioned relatively recently, he has made a second career when he's not doing SpongeBob of doing the Penguin. And it all started.
I love how involved this guy continued. I mean, that cat probably could have retired a decade ago with the SpongeBob bucks that he's made over the years.
Yeah.
But he just keeps on doing it. So you just know the guy does it because he loves it. And I think that's amazing when you have somebody that has that much passion for their work and
for sure,
even in a smaller role like that.
Yeah.
They probably had him in the booth for a day or two, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, because he did Green Arrow and the Penguin, and both of them only have a few lines.
Yeah.
But it all started with him playing the Penguin on the Batman, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. That was the first time he played the Penguin. Now he's been doing it ever since.
I guess you're right. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. But anyway, I just thought that was such a great sequence. And I just was like, oh God, yeah, this is so good. I just want more. To go back to the beginning though, I did not expect this movie to start with Jor-El and Lara putting Clark in the pod. And I didn't expect it to start with the destruction of Krypton. And when it did, I was like, oh, that's a choice. And then I love that that's also where Starro came from.
Yeah, I thought that's not a translation that I can recall ever having seen in comics or anywhere else. So, if you're going to show us this thing, do it in just a little different way to make it interesting or to let us know why you did it. And they did that here. And I really, the choice is probably not one that I would have made, but it played out well with the story they were telling. So yeah, I was there for it.
Well, yeah. And as a prologue, I think it worked really well. And yeah, because it was one of those things where it's like, why are we going back to this? And a big part of it is, which is not abnormal for Superman movies or even Batman movies, is this is about fathers and sons, and to start with Jor-El saying goodbye to his son, and then Superman becoming a father himself. Like, I get it thematically, but still, I was like, oh, why are we going back to this? And then when Starro jumps on the pod and hitches a ride, I went, oh, that's fun to use this as the launching point. And then the fact that Starro can't, he can't hold on, and that's why he ends up being whatever 30-35 years behind Kal-El in getting to Earth, is because he's not able to hitch ride the whole way. He, at a certain point, he can't hold on any longer.
So I'm going to throw this out there just to make Jay Yaw smile, because I know he'll appreciate it if nobody else will. I wondered if that wasn't Jarro instead of Starro that was in that tank that hitched the ride at first, because I feel like if it was that dangerous organism that you were worried about, you wouldn't just keep it in a fish tank in your lab. You might have it a little bit more secured, but that's not where it went. But I thought maybe for a second.
Yeah, I don't know who Jarro is, so I'm just gonna.
He's like a small Starro that helps out the DC heroes.
Oh, okay. But then I appreciated how it went right from the the destruction of Krypton cold open, which again I thought was done very well. And it's to me, it's one of those things where, like the death of the Waynes, have we seen it 100 times? Yes. And yet when it's done well, I don't mind seeing it again, especially if it's not going to eat up an hour of the movie. And so I felt like it was done very effectively.
3-4 minutes, maybe. I mean, it wasn't very long.
But then to go right from that into this really great montage with using that old school artwork to get us up to speed of Clark's life from him landing in Smallville to where we are now, where he's married with Lois, living in Smallville again with his son. I thought that was really well done too, of like showing, oh, they found him, and he, there was the conversation with his dad about playing football and then losing his parents and then getting married. And I loved that little montage to get us up to speed. I thought that was very effective.
I agree. The only choice that was made there that I maybe wouldn't have done was killing the Kents off, but
Yeah. Both Jonathan and Martha. Yeah.
I mean,
that surprised me a little bit.
I like the dynamic of both of them being up and around, but people make their choices, and I don't think it hurt the story. It's a choice I might have made differently, because then you get the chance to see Jonathan interact with both sets of his grandparents at some point through it too. So
yeah, I agree. I thought that was interesting too, especially like with Jonathan. Generally I don't hold my breath for him to survive, Jonathan Kent Sr.
Sure.
But Martha's usually around for a while. But it reminded me honestly a lot of Superman and Lois. Essentially of like the status quo of Superman and Lois, which by the way has been amazing.
I got to get caught up. I
still haven't even started
season 2 yet.
This season is so great. It's a lot, and I mean it in a good way, but it's a lot, but it's really good. But yeah, like the status quo did remind me of Superman and Lois, of like, oh, at this point, Ma and Pa Kent have passed on, and Clark decided he wanted to move back to Smallville with Lois and his family to raise the family there. And I was like, I feel like that's not something we've seen a lot prior to the past couple of years. And now it seems like it's another beat in the Superman story that's being a little more prevalent and accepted.
Mm-hmm. I lost my train of thought. There was something I was going I like the fact that they're trying to explain to Jonathan why reporting is important, and he keeps saying how boring it is.
Yeah.
I for some reason just feel like that would be very much how a kid of that age would think about their parents' jobs, especially when they don't have any kind of, excitement or appeal to them or anything like that. Clark comes home and he starts talking about, an ant colony or something like that. And Jonathan's just like, oh, I feel like that's very natural. I mean, get ready for this. This is what Harley's going to give you when you come home and talk about roller coasters. And we
build theme parks, damn it. If you say that's boring, you're out of the family.
Kids find ways to rebel in their own little ways, even if it's not like.
She's like, why can't you guys just be accountants?
So anyway, I thought that was really good. But what I wanted to really transition into from that was, I love the fact that Jonathan has these issues with his powers beginning to develop that he doesn't understand, and he's already tense that Dad, didn't show up for the baseball game when he promised he was going to. And of course, we as the audience know why, but he doesn't get it, and he's whatever age he's supposed to be, 12, give or take, and he's tense about it. So they finally decide, Lois and Clark kind of have that little conversation about maybe it's time that he knew, and he presents himself in the Superman costume, like Jonathan's giving him the whole "you wouldn't understand," and he's like, "Oh, I don't know, give me a try," or whatever he says. And instantly, it goes from "I'm mad at my dad" to "I have the coolest dad ever because my dad is Superman." And I love that because that's how a kid that age would react if he found out his dad was the greatest superhero in the world.
Yeah,
So
I
I,
agree.
I appreciate the presentation of angst. It's like, I can't believe you didn't tell me you were Superman before. Why couldn't you be truthful with me about why you were always gone and all this other stuff? I feel like you didn't trust me. And, that I feel like that angst is not out of line, but I still like this presentation here that instantly all is forgiven because this kid loved Superman to start with. And finding out his dad was Superman was just the king of all. You know what I mean? It's just, I thought that was really cool how that was handled, and I just appreciated it, even though it was very simple.
No, I completely agree. And again, I really like that the movie takes its time in the beginning to set up, what Jonathan Kent, where he is. They're very good about letting us know that he doesn't know yet, right? About him going, "Oh God, your jobs are so boring," and all that stuff. And him digging around for birthday presents and finding the Superman suit and
And he makes the comment about cosplay gross or something like that.
right,
I thought
yeah.
that was pretty funny.
But you're right. Like, I appreciated that it takes the time to really set up Jonathan Kent. Like, I think you're right. I think he's turning 12. They don't actually say it, but that seems right. Um, and then, yeah, like, what leads them to then going, well, it's time for him to know. And you're right. It's so nice that he's like, "Oh, you're Superman. It all makes sense now. And I'm totally okay with it." And so I love the moment later on where he's flying with his dad and Superman is like, "You're taking this so much better than we feared." And he goes, "What? You're Superman. How else am I supposed to take it?" And that's refreshing, because I feel like I have seen other things where they share the secret of, I'm a superhero, and it's met with, "How dare you?" It's like, what?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like, and so it's refreshing that his son immediately gets it and is like, all is forgiven because now it makes sense.
And I love how he puts on the Superman hoodie immediately. And even later on, I mean, it's jumping around here, but that's what I do about these things. He's wearing that hoodie, and Damian says something about, "Isn't that a bit on the nose?" And he's like, "Hey, I was like, a huge Superman fan before this even happened." So,
Right. Before I knew. I also like, he goes, you're like the coolest superhero in the world after Batman.
oh, yes, that was great. And Clark just has that look on his face. It's like super brief. If you're not looking for it, you won't even catch it. But he's like, "Oh."
Always. So no, and again, by making Jonathan the main character and having Jack Dylan Grazer voice him, who is just so likable and charismatic on his own, you just love Jonathan Kent and you're so on his side and you appreciate what he's going through and you appreciate his excitement, and he's so pure hearted because there's that great moment where he's like, "Oh, like, we need to go help people. Should we go on patrol?" And he's like falling asleep. He's like, he can't keep awake, but he still wants to like go help people. And Clark and Lois are both like, "We did good." Like, he's just a sweet kid who wants to do right.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
the energy that he brings to this character is very on point to me. And I feel like that. I think you've mentioned it a couple times when you first watched it, and even earlier on this show. Uh, all the characters just really feel like the right energy, the right voice, the right everything is just working so well for them. I love the presentation of everyone in this. I think they're all terrific.
yeah, absolutely. Lois, Clark, Bruce, Damian, Jonathan, they all feel just as they should. I think that the characterization and the writing for all the characters is done very well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Including Damian. And it's I'm on record. Damian is not my favorite Robin. Sorry about it. But I think that this movie does a great job of presenting a Damian that is still Damian. He's still a little SOB. He's still an arrogant little guy.
But he's
And
not the wholly unlikable one.
Well, and that's just it is, but as the movie goes on, you find yourself liking him more and more, even though he never stops being Damian. Um, they found the right balance of like he's never like he's insufferable for the first few minutes, but by design, where
Mhm.
they meet in the Batcave and he's got no time for Jonathan. He calls him the farm boy. They're like, yeah, maybe something stressful will cause other powers to materialize, and he just pushes him off that cliff. Where you're like, well, he's such a little jerk. But from the moment something goes wrong, and Damian realizes like Jonathan is the only one left, I need to go get him. Um, yeah, like you start to see the kid underneath, and there's even that great conversation between Clark and Bruce, where Clark is like, how's he doing? He goes, I think he wants to be good, but there's just so much of Roz and Talia in him, and it's a
Mhm.
great little moment. But I think they do a great job of presenting a Damien that is Damien, but even I kind of like him by the end.
Yeah. So I'll let you in on a little secret. The book that I've mentioned several times already is one of the reasons that I grew to like Damien is because of this type of characterization of him. Because I know so much of the early Damien stuff, he was just a snot nosed little shit that you couldn't stand, and that was the point. I get it, but I feel like this was one of those things where it pivots and starts making him likable and shows you his growth as a character. And I feel like this movie gets that across. You mentioned you would have liked maybe another 10 or 12 minutes to get at that 90-minute runtime. I feel like I wanted that too, but what I wanted was to give just that little bit more background about Damien. Like you get a little bit of verbal exposition about where he came from and what he went through, but you don't get a lot of it. So like people who aren't already familiar with Damien might be just a little off balance with this movie.
Yeah.
But again, that's being nitpicky. I don't think it really harms the overall quality of the film at all. It just this is Damien kind of where he seems to be at now, or at least when I was still reading very regularly, and before he wasn't like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean you even see like he's got this hard exterior, he's arrogant, he thinks he's the best there is. And yet when the Titans reject him and they're like, "No, like you're not a team player. We don't want you." Um and you see the disappointment in his face before he's like, "Oh, well, it's fine. I only was doing it cuz my dad asked me to or whatever." Um it's a good way that we still have sympathy for him, even though we understand, well, part of this you're doing to yourself. And even he kind of learns that as the movie goes on. And it shows that he does want to have friends. He wants to connect with people. And it takes someone as open hearted as Jonathan for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jonathan takes all of his abuse in stride, pretty much. I mean, he's not a pushover, but at the same time, he still continues to give him a chance. He never rejects him, even though Damien's being Damien.
Right. And in a way, these two characters, as presented here, and as I knew them from the comics, they feel like they're individuals. Don't get me wrong, but they still feel like they're offshoots of their father's respective personalities.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Some for good, some maybe not. It's very Jonathan's very wholesome, Boy Scoutish kind of thing, and Damien's very dark, brooding, cerebral, that sort of thing. But the way that their chemistry works together is really fun, and we love that stuff with Superman and Batman. And I really think that's why it works with Damien and Jonathan the way that it does.
Yeah, yep, that makes sense. It's a mini version of World's Finest in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
um, I appreciate how Damien dealt with Jonathan's bully.
Oh yeah.
I appreciated that little subplot of Jonathan. Even again, Jonathan standing up to his bully regardless, and then realizing he has super strength, and then he's like, "Fine, give me your best shot." And he goes, "Turns out super strength does not mean invulnerable. Those are two different things." Um, And I liked his conversation with the principal where he sees the Batwing landing and he goes, "Yep, yep, you're absolutely right, principal. Thank you. It'll never happen again. You're really good at your job." And then the principal's like, "I'm really good at my job." That made me laugh. But yeah, I appreciate that. And then yeah, Damien, when he shows up, he's got no time for the bully, and so he just does whatever that magic stun touch is to,
Yeah,
to
it's. I guess it's like a pressure point
yeah,
paralysis thing. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know how believable that is in real life, but I can roll with it.
You know, you assume he was trained by the League of Shadows. He knows,
And
or
it
the
could have
League of,
been
League of
worse.
Assassins. But
He
yeah,
could have given him the 5 point palm exploding heart technique.
see, exactly right. He's like he'll be fine in a couple of weeks. So I love that, and then I love the way it comes up again at the very end, where
Hmm.
that this bully hasn't learned a damn thing, and so he just walks by, boop, and does it again.
So I guess I'll get a couple of my other nitpicks out of the way here. And again, these are not things that I'm like, oh God, this movie would have been great if not for. It's just things that I observed that I wasn't like hugely a fan of. Two aesthetic things. Number one, Superman's outfit seems almost weird to me how low cut the front of it is.
Ah, I
It's
didn't
almost
even
like a
notice.
cleavage outfit, but I mean, again, I'm not a big fan of the collar style on the Superman costume either. So I almost feel like this is too far in the other direction. But
Okay.
like, very nitpicky. And Damian's hair, I think, is just a little too much because it's like 4 feet tall on top of his head. But sometimes in
Well,
animation, things get exaggerated. So these are not big deals.
yeah, yeah.
There is one. I don't know if we're going to call it a plot point or anything like that, but it happened, and then I was like, that was I don't quite understand that, and that's when they're in trouble. I think Lois is in the Oval Office with Lex,
Hmm.
and the cameras are on, and she's like shouting out Jonathan Kent's name in front of like a global broadcast for a presidential news thing, and
Yeah,
it's like,
she's like, Jonathan, if you're out there, yeah.
yeah, I feel like that might have been not the best thought out choice there because, everybody on the planet might be watching that at that point, and, letting everybody know that your son is who you're calling to for help. I mean, I know that's being like super, super, super nitpicky, but for some reason it just didn't sit right with me.
Huh.
I feel like there might have been a better way to handle that, but again, I'm not going to deduct quality points from the movie for it. I would have made a different choice.
Okay. I didn't think of it, but I guess, yeah, you have a point there about her calling out by name to the entire world. Um, I thought design wise, I thought everybody looked great. I thought Damian looked exactly like Damian, and Jonathan Kent looked exactly how he should. I love that he added the cape when they got in the pod and found his dad's blanket.
Yes,
Um, and I thought Batman and Superman both looked great. Here's my
agreed.
only other nitpick, and it's really the only one it's the only real nitpick I got other than give me more Batman, which, of course. um, and Superman's voice took a little getting used to for me.
It felt like an over exaggeration to me at first too, but I adjusted to it very, very quickly.
Like I adjusted and it wasn't bad. It just
No, no, it's not.
there was just a something about it where it was like a little too deep and
It's very booming.
yeah, and yeah, it just felt a little off to me, and it took me some adjusting. Like I was like, huh, it to me it doesn't sound like Superman. To me, honestly, it almost sounds more like it should be Lex Luthor or a Dark Side or something. It just there's something just a little dark and deep about it. But I got used to it very quickly, and then I was like, okay, that's just how it is. But that was the only thing that it threw me off just a tiny bit. I thought everybody else sounded great. Everybody else's performance was great. I thought Troy Baker was awesome as Batman.
Agreed.
He's done it multiple times now, but I think this is the most I've ever liked it because it's still Batman, but it doesn't feel like he's doing someone else. It doesn't feel like he's
No,
trying to do Conroy or anyone else. And I really like his Batman in this. So generally, again, thumbs up all around. It was just Superman's took me some adjusting.
I agree. And I guess the adjustment I might have made there is I'm kind of two minds about this. I wouldn't have probably had him talk quite that way when he was as Clark, but at the same time, he's only ever really Clark when he's around people that know.
Mhm.
So it's him being himself, more or less. So I guess I can't really give it the complaint there, but
Yeah.
I agree. For me, it was. I don't want to say it was off putting. It was just unusual, but again, I got over it like super cool. Like within a matter of a minute or two, I was just like, okay, this is where we're at. Cool, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And again, and it's not bad. It takes you to go, "Oh, okay, that's different, but all right, I'll go with it." Um I do love that Clark gives Jonathan a gift to get him started on his path as a superhero, and his glasses. And he's like, "Oh, great gift, Dad." And we didn't talk much about Starro yet. I mean, we mentioned him, but Starro is the big bad in this. I think that it's effective. I actually really like it. Um, I love the new spin, and I think we talked about this when they released the trailer of Starro will often be in hiding inside the person
Mm-hmm.
and then will choose to emerge from their mouth and take over their face. I had never seen that prior to this. To anytime I've ever seen Starro in any other media, it's always just on the face. But I thought that added a nice like body snatchers angle to it where you can't quite be sure who's been taken or not. And that added to a lot of the fun, like where Lois shows up at the school and he tests him. He's like, "Can I go home and play video games?" She's like, "Of course, darling." Like, yep, you're right. She's compromised. And then Luther, I love that. Like she has to go to Luther for help, and immediately goes after him once he's recording. And she goes, As soon as you took the meeting, I knew that you had been taken over." But it was still a fun new angle where it's like instead of like, "Oh, there's a giant starfish on your face. Of course, you are now a quote unquote bad guy." There are multiple times where they are not quite sure, and that adds a really fun angle to it.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think it gives it that extra dimension of, you know, almost paranoia for the viewer and
Yeah.
even the people who aren't overtaken at that point. And there's a couple times early on with that, not so much as the movie progresses on. I think they just didn't want to, get carried away with this element. And I can appreciate that. But when the first one or two of those present themselves from inside and climbing out the mouth and everything, there's some horror element to it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like
When
it's not like
Batman's
super.
mouth gets real big.
Yeah. It's not like super gruesome or gory or anything, but still just that unease of, oh gosh, if this was crawling out of my throat and out my mouth right now, that would be so gross. That's just kind of the feeling that I got watching it.
That's me after tequila, man. But I also thought it was a really nice way to take Batman and Superman off the board, where now it has to be about the Super Sons. I appreciate that, it started at the Watchtower and it took over Green Arrow and Superman, Batman immediately knowing something's up. And then, then they get taken. And so now the Super Sons, they have to save their parents and they also have to save the world, and they got to figure it out as they go. I thought that was a great way to, again, to make it so it's not like, well, Batman and Superman there, they got your back. And
Well,
then
it not only takes them off the board for not having that backup assistance, but that's also who they have to contend with when
and
they
they have
get
to
up.
fight. Yeah, they have to fight their fathers, which again, it's like, of course that's where this should go. And it's the right story beat of first they fight their own fathers and then they switch and fight the other one. And it's just such a perfect climax for the movie.
And Jonathan being so pleased with himself for knocking out Batman with one punch was pretty funny, I thought.
Yeah. Yep. What was it after they meet Batman and Jonathan goes, "He was so," and they like Lois says something disparaging and Jonathan's like, "No, I was just gonna say cool. He's so cool." I can't remember what she said, but it was pretty funny too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, not only yes, they not help, but it gives us the great fight on the Watchtower between the Super Sons and their fathers. I think that's awesome. Prior to that, I also appreciate that they have to go to the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't seen that giant key in a minute, so that was kind of fun to see. Of like, that's how Clark keeps anyone from getting in, is this key that only he could lift.
Yep.
So I appreciate that Jonathan manages to get there, and he's like, "Did it one try," and Damian's like, "Yeah, but now you have to turn it."
And then Damian taking the pot shots about it's like, he has this giant key that only he can lift and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, super intellect isn't one of his powers, is it?
Right, that's it, a key. And I like that Crypto is there and helps guard the fortress. They're also, it is still very much a Super Sons movie, and I think they do a really great job of keeping the focus on Jonathan and Damian. I think it's done very well. But I always am happy when they can incorporate more of the DC universe in a way that makes sense. So getting the Titans cameo and getting the Justice League taken over on the Watchtower, getting Crypto into the Fortress of Solitude, it's just enough, right? It's just enough to make the world feel bigger and like the whole DC universe exists without taking the focus from our main characters.
Yeah, agreed. And Crypto was fantastic, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. He was great. Um, and then I love the conversation with the Jarrell AI.
Yeah.
Where he's like, can you tell us this? He's like, that is beyond my capabilities. Like, what help are you? you know?
Again, that's one of those very familiar elements that's done just differently enough to make it feel, fresh. Jonathan's first time coming across the computer simulation of Jarrell. It's we've seen Clark interact with that thing in movies and other media for years, and this is the first time that most of us have seen Jonathan interact with that. And I thought it was really well done, really well handled.
Absolutely. Yep. And him meeting his grandfather for the first
Right?
time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Super well done. And then they realizing they have to go into space and cramming into Superman's original pod that was built for a baby. And then when it all comes to a head, they realize they have to kill the hive mind, and it's it's the super Starro, the massive Starro. I appreciate how much more grotesque the hive mind Starro is. It just
Yeah,
has
versus just being a giant version of what's on everybody's
yeah.
face. They took that extra effort to say, and maybe some people didn't like it because they're purists, and I can respect that. But I like this because you still knew that was Starro, but it was different enough. It was more of like oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Lovecraft. It was almost like a
Yeah.
Lovecraft
Yeah.
kind of a thing, and I really liked it. I enjoyed it.
Well, I liked it too because it was unmistakably Starro, but you could tell it was the boss, not only because of how big it was, but it had all this extra monstrous detail and extra tentacles and an extra layer of stuff on it. And it just had its own look of its own. And I thought that was really cool. And them realizing heat is the answer and them having to make the hard decision. First of all, they saved the Justice League and they saved their fathers, but them realizing that the only way to defeat this thing is to go down with it. And it goes back earlier to what, you know, Clark was teaching Jonathan, which is being a hero sounds like fun, but it's also a lot of sacrifice. And then Jonathan realizing to make the sacrifice. And I think another one of the great moments is they think this is the end, and it's just the two of them, now friends, sitting together and just having a laugh, as they're waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, they basically accepted their fate in that moment, and they know they're going down, but they're like, no regrets, kind of a conversation. I thought that was a really good character moment for both of them there.
Yep. To quote Ben Affleck in Armageddon, we all got to die. At least I get to be the one who does it, saving the world.
Yep. And
But
also
yeah,
they were like, what was his name, Rockhound or whatever his name was in that movie. He was like, I got a front row seat to the end of the world. That's
yeah,
kind of what it
exactly.
reminded
Well,
me of too.
it's time to embrace the tragedy, right?
Yeah.
I will also say this, and it kind of goes along those lines. Is I think that the writing in this is very well done because I think they do such a nice job of, at the very beginning, the conversation between Lois and Jonathan, and her telling him how you've got to find the beginning and you've got to find your end, you've got to find an angle. That's what a reporter is, and him using that to then dig into, figure out where Starro came from, where Starro might be, his conversation with Clark about the ants and the hive mind and how that incorporates it. And I could see someone saying, well, isn't that a nice coincidence? But I think that it's done in just the right way, especially because we learn that the ants and their hive mind was disrupted by Starro. So it was actually caused by Starro's arrival. It's not like it was just a coincidence. So I just felt like the writing of setting up those beats and then how they pay off later is very well done. And then again, the conversation about being a hero is about sacrifice, and Jonathan really coming to understand that in the end. And then Superman acknowledging it of I'm so proud of him because that's what he had to learn and he did.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all that's just
The writing is
good.
very good in that
Yeah.
respect, and nothing is wasted. Again, we talked about Starro hitching the ride on the rocket at the beginning when Krypton is being destroyed, plays the factor in it. The ants being disrupted plays a factor. I mean, everything is kind of there for a reason, and it's unusual and at least for me appreciated whenever I see something that puts that much effort into the detail of the writing instead of just saying, just shoehorn something in there and people will just accept it for what it is. I mean, you're not being lazy about it, I guess is the best way I can
Well,
say it.
exactly, because it would have been very easy to just let the Jarrell hologram tell them everything, right? And be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's how we're going to move to the final act. Is Jarrell's just going to tell them the info they need, and away they go. But he doesn't. He explains what Starro is and what they know about Starro, but he can't tell them where it came from. He can't tell them where it is. He can't even tell them how to defeat it. And they have to figure it out on their own. And I thought that was great, because the easy way out would have just to, do an info dump from Jor-El.
Sure.
So, they do crash to Earth, and I appreciate that it doesn't quite do the job. And the hive mind is like, what is that? I've survived in space for forever. You really think that this is going to end me? And it allows that moment of father and son, Superman and Jonathan, to get that final hit in. And earlier on, Jonathan, he missed the big pitch at the baseball game. And here he connects when it matters, and he uses that tree to knock Starro into space.
If I may, and I'm not even going to say this is a nitpick here, I'm just going to say it for a funny commentary. I want to build my house out of whatever kind of wood that tree was made out of that can hit a 12-ton alien out into orbit and not break. Anyway.
I don't know.
That's one of those suspension of disbelief moments, but it all works in the context of everything. So I'm not going to be mad at it in the least. It's again, not even something I'm going to check off as a nitpick. It's just something that popped in my head as it was going on.
Yeah. I guess my nitpick is I wish Damian and Batman had something to do in that final moment, because they're mostly just watching Superman and Jonathan. I wish they could have been a little more help in that final, but tiny nitpick. Yeah. Tiny nitpick. But that's what happens.
I feel like they were playing that much more as a father and son moment than a team of four moment.
So for sure.
I know what you're saying.
But that's how they defeat it. Away he goes. And so now Damian has a friend, and the Titans come crawling back, and he's like, I'm going to get back to you on this, now that he's got the power position. Oh, something before we finish up. I don't know about the cow, the Bat Cow.
Bat Cow? You don't know about Bat Cow?
Where did Bat Cow come from?
That's a legitimate thing, dude.
I know it is. I know it exists, but I don't know where it started or where it exists, because in no comics I've read.
I'm not sure where it started either, but for some reason I've got it stuck in my head that like Damian loves that cow.
Was it a Super Sons thing, maybe?
Perhaps.
And that's why I don't know about it, because the cow showed up, and I know enough again to I have heard of it, but I don't know where it came from.
I don't know the origins or anything like that.
Okay, but it was nice of Jonathan to milk her for him.
Yeah.
I did like that, where he just did it anyway, and he hands that bucket to Batman. That's great. Anyway, so Jonathan and Damian are now friends, and Damian's excited because he gets to go to his first ever baseball game.
Why did the Waynes show up wearing like 3-piece suits and ties for this?
You know what? When you're a Wayne, you got a style.
I guess.
You got a strut. And it's the only time where Damian's hair is not 4 feet tall.
True.
He actually combs it down. So you know what? Clark has the fake glasses. Damian Wayne has the hair.
There you go. We'll go with that.
Damian's hair sits down. Robin's hair is straight up.
I feel like that is what Damian's hair looks like. I just feel like it was very exaggerated.
Oh, totally. It totally was. Yeah.
I'm not mad at it.
No, man. I'm going to start doing mine like that.
Cool.
Again.
Cool.
I have done it like that at some points in my life. Anyway, so they did the baseball game. I appreciate the little twist where Jonathan, now knowing he has powers, he just bunts, but it's the world's most powerful bunt in the world.
Yeah, that sucker went like 90 yards.
Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate that he gets his little baseball glory. Damian gets to go. What is it? Damian yells something about like, hit it like it's an interdimensional parasitic alien, and everybody just kind of stares at him.
Yeah.
And then they have the final moment where, they're the Super Sons, and they're sitting there on the Smallville water tower. And you're right. It feels like the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
I want this to be an animated series.
You know what? I'm right there with you. Because yes, when it's over, you're like Oliver Twist. Please, sir, I'd like some more.
I mean, almost by extension of just like the general feel of the characters and the the mood and everything else. This, not exactly, but I mean, very similar vibe to like the Superman animated series.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, by extension, I really love that series. So I'd love to see a series made out of this. But obviously, that would take a lot of effort to get that up and rolling. And then we'd have to figure out which damn streaming service it was going to be on, because clearly HBO doesn't freaking want them for some reason. Sorry, that was bitter. That was a bitter moment there. I didn't need to throw that in, but I did.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Don't get me started. Don't even get me started. And I appreciate that final moment where Damian still pushes Jonathan off and goes, "Yep, still can't fly."
Yeah. I actually, just a side note to what I just said there. I actually went out of my way to watch this on HBO Max instead of my digital library, just so they know people out there do want to see these things.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I try to do that now, especially now if I can watch something on a streaming service, even if it's something that's in my library, unless it's something that like I have in 4K and it's not streaming in 4K, I'll usually opt for my own. But if it's like, equal presentation, I'll watch it on the streaming service, because I'm trying to let these people know someone appreciates this. Someone wanted to watch this. Someone watched this on your service. So I'm weird about that stuff.
No, I get that, and I appreciate it. So yeah, you got to let them know that there's an audience for it. Oh, and also real quick, I also appreciated the redesigned Batwing in this. I thought it was really neat. The way it's a Batwing, it's unmistakable, but the way that the wings move up and down, like for landing and flight, I thought that was really neat too.
Yeah, it was cool. The Batmobile, I mean, the Batmobile didn't get any action or anything, but I wasn't wild about the presentation of the Batmobile. But hey, points to them for designing something you could still tell was a Batmobile.
You couldn't resist.
No.
You couldn't resist.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know nothing.
I was only talking about the Batmobile in this thing. If your mind went somewhere else, that's on you, not on me, pal.
I agree. I liked the Batmobile. You're right. It's a little more of a subtle Batmobile, but I liked it. And again, just the greedy fan in me, I was like, oh yeah, it would have been great if we had a scene with it, but it's fine. It's fine.
You have a whole series of nothing but the Batmobile floating around out there.
It's true, and
yet you want more of it in this, man.
Yes, I always want more Batmobile. I always want more Batman. Jamie, do you not know this about me?
No, I was completely unaware. What's next? Are you going to get a tattoo on your shoulder of the bat symbol?
I will always take more tacos. You might think I've had as much tacos as I can have, but I will eat more tacos, and that's how I feel about Batman. I was just looking real quick because the director is Matt Peters, and I didn't know the name. And I was like, is this his first? But it is not his first. But what's interesting is he did a lot of, he worked in the art department for a lot of the animated movies, and he also worked in the art department for Shazam, the live action movie. But as a director, again, because I was so impressed with this, I wanted to see what else he's done. He did a lot of the direct-to-video Lego DC movies. And then the first one of these like proper DC direct-to-video movies he did was Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, which I remember liking. I haven't revisited it, but I remember liking it. He also did Injustice, which I liked.
Apocalypse War was pretty good. I enjoyed that one. Injustice, I thought was just a half a tick shy of great to my recollection.
Yeah. He did a couple of the shorts. He did the Commandy short, and he did the House of Mystery short. He did Teen Titans Go and the DC Superhero Girls, Mayhem in the Multiverse, which that one I did not like, but I don't really think that's his fault. I feel like that's because it was a lie. But I feel like he's only gotten better, and Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons. Bravo, Matt Peters, and I can't wait to see what he's got next. Right now on his IMDb, it doesn't show anything next, but I hope he gets to do another one of these, whether it be a Super Sons sequel or something else completely. A lot of credit here, because I thought this one was terrific.
I agree. I think we're very much saw the same movie here.
Awesome. All right. Favorite part?
Oh gosh, favorite part. Probably that Batman scene at the beginning where Clark and Jonathan are having the commentary off to the side of, aren't you going to go in there and help? No, it really makes him mad when I step in these situations. That whole sequence there, I just thought was an absolute blast. And not to say there weren't blasts elsewhere to be found, but I think that probably was my favorite overall.
Yep. Make it two. I agree. That was just so great. All right, well, let's give some closing thoughts and a letter grade. Jamie, go for it.
So I think this is worth your time. If you haven't seen it, I definitely think you should check it out. I think there's so much good going on in this thing, and I would absolutely love to continue adventures going. Again, I've said it like 5 times already, but I'm going to say it one more just for the cheap seats. I would love for this to be an ongoing animated series. Even if a streaming service is going to do it, not as like an after school cartoon 5 days a week, but give me 10, 12 episodes a season, kind of like they do with the Harley Quinn show on HBO Max. I would absolutely adore that. I would spend as much time as possible in this universe as long as they delivered this level of quality each time up. For me, this is an A minus.
All right. I my minor nitpicks are the tiniest, and I don't even dock it a letter grade, because you said Injustice was just shy of great. I think I agree with that, if I recall. I think this is great. I think they nailed it. I was so impressed with this one. The animation is awesome. The story is great. The characterizations are great. It's a great movie. The action's great. There's some good laughs throughout, but overall, man, this one I think is firing on all cylinders, and it is my favorite of these in a long, long time. So you're going to think I'm one-upping you, but it's an A for me.
Oh, I figured as much.
Okay, good.
For whatever
But
it's worth, our letterbox scores were identical.
yeah, there's a little wiggle room in there. Yeah.
But I also do I've started taking to my letter grades as related to I do IMDb and I do Letterbox both. And I try to make everything in line as much as possible. So what I've done is my letter grades that I give, I'm basing on those grades. So I've actually got the corresponding star and letter grade ratings in my head now. So whatever I give it, I know what my letter grade is going to be when we talk about it on the show.
I do that for Letterboxd, but again, there's like a little wiggle room. Like I think I gave it 4 stars, which for me would be like an A or an A minus,
Mm-hmm.
But as I watched it again, and I'm like, I really don't have any complaints. Like I just got to go with an A.
So I tell you what I miss is back in the early days of like me doing this stuff, I always felt like my IMDb rating was more like my objective perspective about a movie. But then Netflix used to have a 5-star rating system instead of just the thumbs up, thumbs down thing. And, hated it, didn't like it, it was okay, really liked it, and loved it was like their score rating. So I could give something like a 5-star rating on Netflix where I might only give it 6 out of 10 on Letterboxd, because I felt just because something is not the most objectively amazing thing out there, that doesn't mean I can't love it. So I kind of missed that process that I used to do, but I guess my Letterboxd is more like the Netflix rating. But again, I've kind of aligned the two now so they match.
All right, that's fair. This is my Letterboxd ranking. This is how I do it. Okay, 1 star, garbage.
You
2
can actually
star.
give half stars.
Yeah, I know you can, but I'm just going with the whole numbers. 2 stars, meh. 3 stars, pretty good. 4 stars, really good. 5 stars, freaking amazing. That's how I rank.
That's fair. That's more or less fair.
Yeah. So when you see
Like
like a 3 star, that means pretty good, pretty
Yeah.
good. Like when we talked about Plane on Real Fans, 3 stars, pretty good.
So I guess, just to give you a perspective of how I'm doing it, I give a lot of things 7s out of 10s, or 3.5 stars on Letterboxd, which is pretty much
Yep.
the same rating.
Oh, most of mine are 3.5 for that very reason.
Yeah. So like this 7 out of 10 or this 3.5, I feel like is my B plus range.
Yeah, fair.
Because we give a lot of things B pluses. We have some issues with it, but it was still super enjoyable, and I'd watch it again, and no overwhelming issues with it, but it could have been better. I feel like that's my B plus 7 out of 10, 3.5 star rating.
Okay, yeah, fair.
And I feel like this was just above it. Hence, the reason I gave it 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5, and A minus. That's my thought process here.
Good. Well, there you go. Now you guys understand our rankings on Letterboxd, too, the rationale behind them. Anyway, Battle of the Super Sons, guys. I can't recommend it highly enough, especially if you love Batman and Superman or Damian and Jonathan Kent. This is a great one, guys. Worth your money if you're going to buy it. Yeah, just buy it. It's worth your money. You should own it. If not, it's on HBO Max, and you can watch it there, so that way they know that people like it. But yeah, highly recommend. Really good. Now let's go back and talk about more animated Batman fun. Let's go back to Tom Kenny as the Penguin at the beginning. We're going to do the next episode of The Batman. We're up to episode 11, season 1, episode 11. This one is called Bird of Prey. Don't get excited. It's not the Birds of Prey. There's no black canary to be found. It's Bird of Prey. It's the Penguin. He's back and causing trouble along with his Kabuki twins, who I think only exist in this show.
I don't feel like I've seen them anywhere else.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen them elsewhere.
I also don't see a lot of Penguin content out there. You know,
yeah.
I feel like literally the only places I see the Penguin are, well, now in the Matt Reeves universe, Batman Returns, and animated stuff. I feel like he shows up a lot, but like comic books or any of that other stuff, I just don't feel like he's prevalent.
You know what? Maybe this is a hot take. Here we go. Strap in. I like the current comic Penguin where he is the mob boss. He's in the Iceberg Lounge. I like that. The downside of that is I don't think he has been a main villain in a Batman story in ages, because now he's always just the supporting player who Batman goes for intel, or he's, or behind the scenes, he's making deals with other villains. But I can't remember the last time there was like a Batman arc where Penguin was the main villain. And I feel like that is a side effect of going, oh yeah, he's the mob boss. He's at the Iceberg Lounge.
We're actually going to talk about a little bit of that when we get into this episode here.
Well, I think that's why it's at the front of mind, is because in this episode, it was nice to see him like be the main villain, because I just feel like you're right. We haven't seen that in a long time. And again, maybe it is out there in an arc that I was unaware of, because, there's 100 Batman books and I don't read them all regularly. So I could be wrong. But in what I have read and what I have seen, he's always kind of around, but I just feel like it's been ages, especially in the comics. And then I think by extension in, other media, where I feel like he hasn't been the main villain in a long, long time. Because even in the Matt Reeves verse, yeah, he's there, but he's an informant. He's a supporting character. Maybe that will change with the HBO Max series. Oh, the Max series. And if so, I welcome it with open arms, because I like the Penguin. I don't like him as much as Joker or Riddler, but I still like him. And this episode, it was kind of nice to see him at the forefront again. Anyway, it was directed by Brandon Vietti. It was written by Stephen Melching. And yes, it is indeed about the Penguin. And he's frustrated with Batman. He's frustrated that he gets no respect. But it turns out the only one he hates more than Batman is Bruce Wayne, because he feels like Bruce Wayne is living the life that he should be living as a Cobblepot. The Cobblepots have been disgraced, but he feels like he should be Gotham's most eligible bachelor, with wasting billions on supermodels and sports cars. And so this time he decides he's going to take a break from going after Batman and go after Bruce instead. At the same time, Bruce has reluctantly agreed to spend a day with a reporter whose name was like Meg or something. It was not a reporter that I'm familiar with. I think she was made up for this. So it was like a day in the life of Bruce Wayne, where he ends up with this reporter. And so he's out showing her around and kind of, peacocking so she can go, look, he's the carefree playboy. And at that same time, the Penguin invades Wayne Manor, where Alfred is. He takes Alfred hostage. He threatens Bruce Wayne. And so Bruce Wayne slips out, becomes the Batman, goes back to Wayne Manor, fights with the Penguin a couple of times. There's some good Batman Penguin fights to save Alfred and by extension, Bruce Wayne. The reporter manages to make it there as well. She gets all this great footage with her cameraman. Alfred accidentally, with air quotes, kicks the tape into the fire, which I appreciated. And once all has been resolved, Bruce Wayne shows up and she's like, Bruce Wayne, you're just showing up now that Batman has left. And just then you see Batman He gets in the Batmobile and drives off, and she's like, oh, never mind. It's nothing. And we get a little callback, in my opinion, to the 60s show, those couple times where Alfred had to dress up as Batman as a decoy. He does the same here. And so Bruce's secret is preserved. So, oh, and then Penguin gets wheeled away like Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, he does.
And
also the reporter gives him the moniker of the Dark Knight.
That's right. That's right. That was a fun thing. This is where the name The Dark Knight came from, was during this little adventure. So this one aired on February 12th of 2005. And what'd you think?
I thought this was one of the better episodes of the show we've seen so far. I really enjoyed pretty much every aspect of it. I don't really have any complaints other than, I mean, the cartoon trope of the polka dot underwear being played not once but twice might have been a little bit of overkill. But even so, this is a younger audience type of a show, so I'm going to let that slide. I'm not going to give it any crap. Everybody had something to do here. I feel like everybody served a purpose instead of just being like a quick background character or something like that. I thought the action was really good. I love it when... So we talked about Joker when earlier in the series when he showed up, and I said I thought it was very interesting that it might have been the first episode of the show. You know, Joker always has been this nemesis to Batman, but it's not often you see Joker be a physical threat to Batman, where Batman's got to fight with the fists as well as the mind. And Penguin, and I think I brought this up on the show before, there was a Batman comic I was reading probably in the 80s or early 90s where Batman was after Penguin, and Penguin like turns around and starts putting the sticks to Batman. And Batman's internal monologue was saying, you know, despite his appearance, I often forget how fit he keeps himself and what a threat he can be, or something to that effect. And I was like, oh, because that was like the first time I'd ever seen that presentation of Penguin. You know, he's always been kind of like a mastermind that sends thugs and everything else. It's not him that's, you know, throwing hands with Batman.
Yeah.
So seeing that perspective, you know, put onto an animated format where it's, you know, it's a motion media format, I enjoy that because, you know, brainless action is entertaining enough and all, but you need to have the mind in there too. But I feel like there's a balance that can be found between both, and using the characters in this show the way they are, I feel like they are sometimes finding that. And I do like that, even if the stories aren't always the most amazing things. But this one I very much felt was a good episode. I feel like the reporter served her purpose. I feel like Alfred served his purpose. Batman, of course, is Batman. He serves his. Penguin. I just think this was a very well-rounded, well-done episode.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought it was really good too. And again, part of it was like, it was just fun to see the Penguin be the bad guy, be the main bad guy. I also appreciated the angle of the Penguin hates Batman, but Oswald Cobblepot hates Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a really fun angle. And we know that, and we have seen it before. It's not like it's not like this show invented it, but I appreciate that this show dedicated an episode to it. And I thought that was a really fun angle. And it was a great way to do something a little different, a little unique. It's not the deepest story in the world, but I think it is enough of a unique story that I was really interested. And it was enough of a unique story to give us a really fun Batman adventure. I like the idea of the Penguin taking over Wayne Manor and being like, this is mine now. Come try to get it back. So yeah, it was really fun. And like you said, this Penguin being able to trade blows with Batman was a lot of fun. I think the animation in the fight scenes in the entire series are some of the highlights. I think it's always very well animated, and this is no different. Along with the lines of
usage of the umbrellas, I think was really good in this. I forgot to bring that up. So
that's exactly where I was going. So not only is it nice to see the Penguin at the forefront, it's nice to see him using all of the trick umbrellas, because I feel like that's something that has sort of faded.
It's really gone by the wayside, and that's unfortunate because to me, that's always been kind of a trademark of his.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the fun. Is like, what has he got hiding in these umbrellas? And in this 22-minute episode, those umbrellas do a lot. And it was fun to see, and I forgot that I missed it until I watched it. Like, he has the umbrella / helicopter, which the first time I remember seeing that was Batman Returns, because I remember watching that trailer for Batman Returns and having the umbrella turn into a helicopter, and me and my friend Dilip going, oh my God, what? So I don't know if it was invented for returns, but that was the first time I had ever seen it.
I
And
feel like that was a thing back around like the 60s animated or Super Friends era, but don't quote me on that.
yeah, I don't know. Well, no, I mean, I get. Oh, I'm trying
Maybe
to.
like a Scooby Doo
Yeah,
episode,
maybe,
perhaps.
maybe you're right. Um, but again, seeing the return of that here was a lot of fun, where he uses
Yeah.
it as a weapon and then as a way to get away. And yeah, all the different things the umbrellas could do. I miss that about the Penguin. So, this was a nice throwback. I had a great time with it. So I think that I saw the same one you did.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my grade first, so you don't think I'm one upping you.
All right.
B plus.
Okay. Um, yeah, just to go back what I was saying, Penguin is a physical threat, but it's not one of those things where it's like Bane, where Batman's life is in danger every single
Right,
time,
right, right.
they're going down. Obviously the weapons with the umbrellas, but as they're like swinging at each other, it's not like you feel like Batman is ever in any kind of imminent danger, but he's just enough to give Batman fits, so you always feel like Batman's going to come out on top, but it's still giving him that additional dimension of threat to Batman. I appreciate. For me, this was an A minus.
Oh, you one up me.
That was my grade going in. So
USOB. I don't believe
yeah,
it. You
it was
lie.
about time.
Okay, it's fine. Um, I mean,
But
last time we liked Topsy Turvy, and this time we liked Bird of Prey, so we're on an upswing. That's nice.
maybe we're getting into the own. Maybe Brendan was right. Maybe the show is starting to come into its own, and we're going to start getting this level of quality. And I would certainly welcome that, because nothing drives me crazier than actually feeling. I know we call it homework anyway, but I hate having to watch something that actually feels like homework. So I've liked the last couple episodes enough. I even to let you a peek behind the curtain. I actually kind of like the Scarface episode well enough.
Oh,
I mean,
all right.
there was a lot of silliness going on. Don't get me wrong, but I enjoyed it well enough. I don't think it
Okay.
was quite to this quality, but I wasn't just like, oh. So I don't like feeling like it exasperates me to watch something that I want to watch for the show. I would rather watch something and enjoy it and come on here with this positive, upbeat attitude about it, instead of being like, man, that it was all right, but yeah, like C minus.
Yeah.
I don't like doing that. I don't.
Yeah. You said maybe Brendan is right. Well, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
That's a fact.
All right, Bird of Prey, good one. We liked it. Next up, episode 12 is The Rubber Face of Comedy, Part 1.
Joker's back.
The Joker's back. And he's bringing Punch and Judy with him. So
Okay.
that'll be next time. Awesome. Continue this journey of the animated The Batman with us. But we got one more little thing to cover. We got to answer your questions. So let's crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Darren, what is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all Master Wayne.
First email here is from Philip Faust. It says, "Hey, Andy and the awesome Batcasters. I'm going a little off subject, but I wanted to strike up a random conversation. Recently, my family and I got back from a cruise, and at one of our stops in Mexico, I found a unique Batman statue. The statue wasn't the greatest quality, but it was at least a foot tall, and the price was fair enough, and there was something so cool about it that made me want it. You can see the attached pictures of what it looked like, and after I touched it up with a little bit of paint. The before picture features a blue and silver color, and Batman missing his signature emo eye makeup. The after picture features gold and gray, with Batman donning his Batskara. Usually when it comes to collectibles, I'll look for the best one I can find before I buy it. However, there was something cool about this one, and I have no regrets for bringing it home. So this brings me to my question. Have you ever been somewhere and seen Batman merch that may not have been the greatest quality, but there was something cool about it that made you want to buy it? That's it for now. I hope you're doing well. As always, thanks for providing us fans with a great podcast and for being great people. Stay batty, Philip." Thank you, Philip. So the picture that he sent me is a Dark Knight style bat statue. So it looks a lot like the Christian Bale, the Dark Knight suit. But yeah, the before one, it's colored interestingly because it's kind of like black, blue, and silver. And then he repainted it to look black and gold, and the paint looks good, Philip. You certainly improved on it. But his question, Jamie, have you ever found like a piece of Batman merch that like wasn't great, but you still kind of wanted it?
Yes, and mine also came from Mexico of all places.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we were kind of going through one of the street markets when we were down there, and they told us when we were staying at this resort, we'll drive you in so you can kind of shop around and see if there's anything of interest to buy. You can try the food, but don't drink the water, kind of thing. But
Yep.
they're like, don't ever pay the price they're asking. They purposely set it up to have like the negotiation system. So like, if they have it priced at something, offer them less, and they'll go back and forth with you. And, that's just part of the process. Don't feel like you're offending anybody. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm walking through there and I'm like, well, there's some really neat, interesting cultural things going on here. And then I walked by this one table that had a Batman action figure that was like in a plastic baggie with a piece of cardboard stapled to the top with a bat symbol on it. Like it wasn't a hand drawn one, but like you can tell somebody bagged and stapled this themselves.
Yeah.
And it was standard size action figure, probably 4 to 5 inches tall, roughly. And it was not the most amazing thing you'd ever seen in your life, but it was the black costume, kind of similar to the Keaton Batman at the time. And this would have been January of 97 when I was there. So, Batman and Robin wasn't even out yet.
Oh, wow.
And I was looking at this thing and I'm like, I just want this because it's a piece of international Bat merchandise that I'm never going to find at home. And it's still in a box somewhere in the house. But anyway, I said, I pointed at it and I said price. And they're like, I forget what they said, like 7 pesos. And I'm like, seis. And they're like, okay, seis. And I'm like, cool. So they took it. So for 6 pesos, I have this Mexican knockoff Batman action figure. I really should get to digging around these boxes someday and getting this stuff out. But yeah, that's similar to his story, what he was talking about. But I didn't do anything to improve on mine.
That's okay. There's something fun about that. 6 pesos is like nothing, though.
I mean, it was pennies, dude.
Yeah,
pennies.
Nothing. Oh my gosh. The answer is yes, I've seen a lot of it, but I never actually bought any of it. Because as y'all know, and you're probably tired of me saying it, but I lived in China for 2 years. And there was this mall in China that we would go to, and they had this toy store that was full of just knockoff merch. And it was Batman.
The kind of things where you have the Avengers that has Superman, Batman, Hulk, and Captain America in the box kind of stuff. Yes. I love that stuff. I love it.
Me too. I love it too. It's terrible and it's awesome. And yeah, so they had Batman figures and they had Avengers figures and they had, anything you can imagine, but they were all a little off. And yeah, there were a bunch of Batman like statues and figures that I saw where the modeling was just a little off and a little wonky. And I always meant to pick one up just because they were funny. And then I never did. I don't know why. But even better than that, there was a whole section that were knockoff Legos. And the labels on the Lego sets were hysterical because they couldn't call it what it was. And so instead of Batman, it would say like Bat Hero. And instead of Jurassic World, it would say Dinosaur World. And instead of Frozen, it would say like,
really cold.
Yeah, like cold princesses, like it was so silly. And I didn't buy them either, but I took a bunch of pictures of those and I posted them whenever it was 2 years ago. Because they were so funny. Like instead of Star Wars, it was something like, space battles. But it was obviously Star Wars. So those were so fun. And again, I don't know why I didn't pick any up. Mostly it was just because I was like, where am I going to put these? Lord knows I have too much crap as it is. But they were fun to look at and they were fun to laugh at a little bit. I will say Catherine got me this statue and it's the one where Batman has the whole Bat family like crawling all over him. Have you seen that one?
Oh yes, I love that one.
And they all look like kids. And so, it's Nightwing and Red Hood and Robin and Damian and Batgirl, but they all look like kids on him.
Yeah.
And she bought that as like a Chinese knockoff. But when it came, it looks just like the real thing. So you never know.
Huh. Fascinating.
Yeah, that one's in our living room. So I've seen plenty of them. I just never bothered buying them, but I get why you would, because there's just something fun about them.
like there's an inherent dirtiness that you feel about some of those things, but at the same time, there's also an inherent charm that goes with them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was going to buy a bunch of them for my nephews and niece because I thought they were so funny. And then one of my friends at work made a joke of being like, yeah, I just hope they don't get lead poisoning. And he was joking, but I got so paranoid that I was like, well, I'm not bringing those back to them.
Legit.
Because I was like, just in case. I have no idea what they're painted with. I'd rather be safe.
Is that one of those things that customs would sweat you about? Like, I don't remember us
I
having
don't
any
think
issues
so.
bringing the things back from Mexico, but
Yeah, I don't think so. I never had a problem bringing like souvenirs and merch and stuff back. All right, next message is from Jacob. It says, Dear Holy BatCast, do you think it's possible for a Batman movie to have a lighter take without being goofy? So let me explain. Most Batman movies post 2000 have been acknowledged as dark and gritty, ultra realistic. And while I've loved them, they've also been widely praised. There are fans out there who complain about the constant darker tone. So you think Batman could have movies that aren't dark and realistic, like The Batman or BVS, but also aren't goofy, like Batman 66 or Batman and Robin? Also, what size do you prefer Batman's ears to be? I'm partial to shorter ears, but only on certain costumes. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. This is something that's come up recently between me and Brendan and Jamie, actually quite a bit, about a lighter touch with Batman. So, Jamie, what do you think?
I absolutely think it's possible, and I think we're going to see it. I think I know this, having Damian involved could lead to a darker thing, but I mean, for all we know, this Brave and the Bold movie could be very much like the Super Sons movie that we just talked about too. I mean, we don't know where Damian's going to be at in the presentation of the film as far as his growth as a character. But even taking some of these animated movies that have done them in these types of presentations, you can make something that's got some weight to it and it's very serious, but it doesn't have to be. And I don't want to say that I feel like most of these Batman movies have been overwhelmed or overcome by their own dark and gritty tones. I think we're reaching that point, but I don't feel like it's been completely overwhelmed yet. But I feel like we can shift back a little bit and restrain ourselves in that and still get content that is I can't think of the right word I'm looking for. Is not goofy, but is still not too serious. You know what I mean? It's okay for Batman to have some fun. It's okay for the movies to be fun. It's okay for them to be light. Even if that Flash movie ever decides it's going to come out, I've seen these trailers that fans have made where Affleck's swinging around in a gray and blue costume in broad daylight. I mean, that doesn't feel like that movie, if it's ever released, will be overcome by its darkness to me. So, I mean, yes, I think it's possible. Yes, I welcome it. Yes, I think we're way overdue for it to happen. But I also don't want to go back too far where we're dealing with more Schumacher Bat films. So
Yeah,
I think we can find a happy ground in the middle that will be, the crowd pleaser where everybody gets something that they like out of it.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Somebody's always going to complain about something. I should say most everybody.
Yeah, so. I completely agree. And I think me, you, and Brendan all see eye to eye on this is, we are some of those fans who have been like, it's time to give Batman a little bit of a lighter touch again, because it's been far too long. I don't understand why it has to keep getting darker. It's as dark as it could possibly be in its time. So I do think that, and again, without going completely in the other direction and doing Batman 66 or doing the Schumacher, there is a way to do it. And there are plenty of superhero movies that have found that tone, that it is a little more all ages appropriate, but it's still not a kiddie movie, And we think about, I'd say both Wonder Woman movies. Wonder Woman 1984, I know that the story doesn't work for everyone, but I think the tone is a good tone that I think, is accessible to a wider range of ages. I think Aquaman's a great example. On the other side of the fence, look at Black Panther. Look at the Captain America movies, especially the first one because it's my favorite. But look at the Spider-Man movies. Spider-Man is a great example. Those movies have been all ages appropriate, and I think that there's no reason Batman can't be the same. I think that when Nolan did Batman, that was as realistic as I ever needed Batman to get. And I don't know why we're trying to get more realistic than Nolan was. It just boggles the mind. And so I think we're overdue to pull Batman back just a little bit, with a little bit of light and a little bit of color, without going Schumacher. And to your point, Jamie, I think that we're going to get some glimpses of that in The Flash, which will be exciting. And I really hope and I really think that that is what The Brave and the Bold will be, because it'll be a perfect way to contrast with what Matt Reeves is doing.
Mm-hmm. We're definitely on the same page here.
And then the other question is, what size do you prefer Batman's ears on his cowl?
I tend to be in the shorter category, but I also don't like them so short where they're like flush with the side of his head.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So, maybe, and 2 inches above the head, I think is ideal for me. But, if you give me a long-eared look that seems to match the aesthetic of everything else, I don't mind that either. I don't ever look at it and go, my God, everything's perfect about that, except the ears are too long or too short or any of that. I feel like, depending on the aesthetic of everything else that's going on, like I guess an example I give is, what's the artist name? Is it Kelly Jones?
Maybe. That is an artist. I don't know.
Batman versus Dracula.
The
other ones.
Yeah,
so
that's a huge one.
But there's a lot of exaggerated stuff going on there. So I don't ever feel like I look at it and go, well, shit, this would look perfect if those ears were, 6 inches shorter, because everything else is exaggerated too. So it just works in the context of the art and the image that artist is putting on the page. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not opposed to it, but my preference is, above the head, but not too long.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, yeah, like I prefer longer ears, like the Keaton ears. I think that's a nice length, but I feel like depending on the costume, I think they work regardless. Like, I never really liked the short Batman ears, and then I saw the Affleck costume and I was like, nope, that works. It's perfect. So I don't feel that strongly about it, because generally it's got to work with the rest of the suit. But yeah, if you're going to say long ears versus short ears, I prefer long, but just not, to your point, the ones that are 2 feet long. All right, next message. Oh, it's from Philip again. And this one says, hey, we're just a few short months away, or from Jamie's perspective, a few years from being able to see The Flash.
No, I don't think we're ever going to see it. Don't put me in the few years category. I don't believe it exists. So.
It says, with those early screenings coming back with positive reactions about the story and the performances, it just makes the wait feel that much longer. Anyways, like any movie that involves a multiverse, it seems like most people are speculating on cameos. This is a Flash movie with time and world travel, so anything is possible, but I will be happy with a bunch of cameos or no cameos, as long as it's a fun comic book movie with a great story. However, something I would like to see is a completed Batcave. I'm aware it's a Flash movie and they have no need to show a completed Batcave, so I'm not holding my breath, but in the trailers, it seems like the two Barrys are exploring the Batcave, so hopefully they really explore it. Show us the giant penny, the T-Rex, the Rogues Gallery memorabilia, old partners' costumes, other Bat vehicles, etc. It would just be great to get a live-action completed Batcave, even if it's a little dusty. Like most, I'm excitedly waiting for The Flash to speed into theaters, so we have another DC movie that hopefully is as great as the early reviews claim it to be. Which leads me to my question. Is there something you would love to see in The Flash movie? All in fun speculation. And Jamie, your answer can't be the movie itself. Again, thank you for reading all the emails that you get and for all the hard work and dedication that you put into this podcast to make it one of the best out there. Stay batty, Philip. P.S. Here's a really bad joke. How does Batman store his Batwing? He uses a bat hanger.
That email felt like it was ripping at my soul several times.
Nope. He's after you. First of all, Philip, I will just say, first of all, thank you for the message and for the kind words. I appreciate that. I love your idea about the Batcave. I didn't think that much about it because I expected to see what we have seen, which is, an upgraded version of his seat and the computers, and then where the Batmobile is, and then the Batwing. That was kind of all I was expecting. But you're right. It would be great to get a little more exploration for more of those little, details and Easter eggs. I think that could be really cool. I'm not holding my breath, but now you kind of got my hopes up a little bit. So we'll see. But is there anything like that, Jamie, that you're like, oh man, I'd really love to see this?
Well, first things first. And I am already on a social media shutdown after those reactions started coming out. Like yesterday, I got in and made like a quick tweet about my football team's draft and got out of there without reading a thing because I am not risking getting spoiled on this film. I got spoiled on Shazam. I got spoiled on a couple other things, and I'm sick to damn death of it. So I'm going to kind of be very scarce on social media until the movie comes out, being, serious and not pulling my usual, well, I don't believe it exists until I see the post-credit sequence. But things that I would like to see in there, if I can pick any cameo in the world to get in this film, Michelle Pfeiffer is Catwoman. Or at the very least as Selena Kyle. I mean, we've talked about this before, but there is literally nothing that I would want more than to have her at least show up and say, can we go to dinner now? Walk down in the Batcave while they're there and say, can we go to dinner now? And he says, give me a minute. I got to finish something up here. Something as simple as that would just, send me to Jesus happy kind of thing. It would be fantastic. But, if you have like a trophy room, have Joker's laughing box, have Penguin's umbrella or top hat, have Selena's whip, have, any of that kind of stuff that references, Keaton's Batman movies from back then. I think that would be super cool as well. And, anything you want to throw in from the Snyderverse, I'm perfectly fine with too. I'm not going to get carried away with starting to drop names, but, anything from anything in the multiverse that you put in that movie, I think I'm going to be pretty happy with.
Yeah, I agree. I think, the one thing that I think is very likely, and Joe and I discussed it on the last episode, is I want to see the Batmobile in action, not just sitting in the Batcave. And so far, we've got none of that from the trailer. So I hope that they're saving that. But I want to see it out on the streets. I want to see it doing stuff. Yeah, Jamie, it's hard to argue against Michelle Pfeiffer showing up. And I think along those lines, and it's something you're alluding to, Jamie, is I want some context as to what has happened in the past 30 years. Like we're seeing that he's sort of a recluse. He's got the long hair at the beginning and then he cuts it. So he's kind of coming out of retirement. But I do want nods to who he has faced and what he has done between Batman Returns and now. And they did say, I think this came out of CinemaCon, that yes, like Batman and Batman Returns are canon. They're ignoring the Schumacher films because obviously that wasn't Keaton. And so, yeah, I just want a little bit of info as to help my brain fill in the blanks between Returns and now.
And, another thing I want to add in there is, as far as things I want to see in the cave, if you have Bat family costumes down there, I would love to see Leslie Grace's Batgirl outfit in there just so somebody can show some solidarity here.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Yeah. And then as far as cameos go, I think your point is valid. I'm afraid like we're letting our imaginations get the better of us, and I don't want us to be disappointed because we're expecting to see everyone and everything. So I feel like we've got to keep our expectations in check because the movie is not just a cameo parade. It still has to be a movie. And so anything in addition to what we have seen already, any surprises, even if it's just one extra surprise, I'm going to try to be happy with that because it's so easy for us to go, well, it's got to have this and it's got to have this person and this person's got to show up in this and this and this and this. And that's just a great way to set yourself up for disappointment.
Now, if I were king of the world and nobody called me for the job they gave to Gunn, so the opening would have been, you and Joe talked about how you think the potential of the cold opening being Barry and Batman dealing with this situation, Batfleck, if you will. If I were king of the world and the world was perfectly right where I wanted it to be, that opening sequence, the cold opening sequence would be the whole damn Snyderverse Justice League dealing with whatever the problem is. And one or more of them falls in battle. And Barry realizes he can go back and stop it from happening. And then realizes as he's doing that, hey, I can not only save them, but I can go back and save my mom, and then kicks off the adventure of the rest of the film. That would be my ideal situation, but there's no way I'm holding out the hope that any of that's going to happen.
I agree with you. I do think that is what it should have been, but we already know that's probably not going to happen. But yes, in a perfect world, I completely agree with you. It should have been that that big opening should be everyone. I don't necessarily think any of them have to fall in battle, but like again, as this is a bookend to the universe, you kind of want to revisit everyone one last time. I think we will revisit some of them one last time, but I do not expect to revisit all of them.
I agree.
All right, one more email here. It's from Austin. It says, "Hey guys, a few short questions. Number one, when you hear the word Batman or you hear someone talk about Batman, what's the first thing that you think of? It could be an actor, a movie poster, a comic book, or anything. And number two, what do you feel are some critical things that you have to incorporate to make a truly great Batman movie or TV show?" All right, Austin, thank you. The first question. So you hear the word Batman. What's the first thing that you think of, Jamie?
I don't know that I have a specific set thing that my mind automatically defaults to. I feel like there was a time when somebody would have said it and my mind would have automatically defaulted to Batman 89.
Yeah.
And maybe even more so, I could have said, Dark Knight Returns. And I feel like it just depends on the context of how I hear it, what the first thing that's going to pop into my mind. So if somebody's talking about a movie, what movie are they talking about? And I can get involved in any conversation about it. I talked, with several guys at work yesterday. As a matter of fact, they traded for a truck on my day off. The guy came from New York and bought an F-150 Raptor and traded an older F-150. And I walked around the truck to check it out. And there's this badass Batman decal in the back window that I went to the guy that cleans up the cars for us. I'm like, if there's any way you can save that thing, do it, because it would look awesome on the back of my car. So yeah, I'm just sorry.
Yeah,
but
no, it's okay.
As far as the topic comes up all the time because they know at work that I love Batman. So, they'll ask me about movies, but most of these guys have never picked up a comic book, or at least not since they were, 10 years old or whatever. So again, the context and topic is going to vary on what pops into my mind, but I don't have any preset thing where somebody says the word Batman and my mind automatically drops in a particular image or topic in my head for it. I don't think I just have that pre-programmed response.
I mean, yeah, I think I agree with you because we we have now we have loved Batman for so long, for so many different versions, and it sort of has become more abstract in our brains. You're right. When I was 10 years old, if you said Batman, my brain would picture Michael Keaton in the Batsuit. That's where it would go. But now in 2023, there are a million Batman things that could come to mind. And so now no one thing does. If it were to be one thing, I would probably say it's just the classic logo, the yellow oval and the bat logo. If it's any one image, it's that, because that image is true for movies and it's true for TV and it's true for comic books. And it's sort of a catch-all, but I feel like if I were to picture an image when you say Batman, it's probably just that. If somebody is just randomly talking about Batman, I unprompted flash them my tattoo. I'm just like, look at that. Yeah. Yeah. You like that? But yeah, I think if anything, it's that. And then critical things that you think are necessary to make a great Batman movie or show, Jamie.
I think I'm so spoiled by Richard and Zack Snyder at this point. I got to say the movement and the action, because for so long I felt like we were restricted and not seeing it the way that it could have been. And then I think in more recent times, we've very much seen how a Batman can move and should move and be at his best as far as, display the fighting prowess or swinging through buildings or acrobatics to an extent. I mean, I think all of that stuff is on the table for us now. So going forward, I feel like who's going to be able to be the one that can match or beat the Martha rescue? You know what I mean? I kind of feel like that's in my brain. I don't think it's necessarily paramount to make it the ultimate Batman experience, but in my head, I'm going to be watching from now on. Like in these fan-made Flash trailers, I see these really cool looking Batman action sequences, and I'm thinking, can any of you match or outdo the Martha rescue? I'm anxious to see what happens if the movie ever gets released, but I don't think there's any set thing that has to be in place to make a really good quality Batman story. I think there are all kinds of things that that can play factors on what kind of story you're trying to tell, the tone, the characterization. I think there's so many ways that you can do it. I don't think there's one set thing that dictates that quality being there or not.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, absolutely. There are 100 million Batman stories you could tell in a million different ways, but I feel like I'm taking this question as more of like a wish list of like, okay, you're trying to make a quintessential Batman movie. What do you need? And like, so my brain was going like, well, you need the Batcave, you need the Batmobile, you need the Joker. Like, I feel like you can't avoid the Joker. Like, so I guess I'm just trying to think of like, yeah, if it were true, to your point, you need a Batman who moves and fights as if he studied for 10 years overseas and just is the best of the best. He is the peak human specimen from all that training. Like, you need a Gotham City that has a personality and it has an identity and it feels like no other place in the world. It just is Gotham City. Like, I'm just thinking of like what I consider Batman's world and the elements that make up Batman's mythology that like, you can't make a great Batman movie and have no Batmobile, right? You know, like that's kind of where my brain is going. So yeah, I mean, you need to touch on the tragedy of his past in one way or another. It doesn't always have to be a flashback that shows it, but I feel like it needs to be an element of it. So yeah, I think that those are critical things to me of like if you want to do a quintessential Batman story, they're just certain must-haves of Batman elements that just need to be incorporated. In my opinion, you need Alfred. You know, I feel like right now these days, Alfred is, well, he's dead. So
I was going to say Tom King disagrees with you, but
you don't have Alfred anymore. But like, if I read something and Alfred is not a part of the story, I'm like, you're missing something there. You need Alfred. So to me, it was like, for me, it's like those just Batman elements that you need.
yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. We're going to close the Wayne Manor mailbox. If you have any questions or anything that you'd like to send to the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send those to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. And that's where we're wrapping it up, Jamie. Always a pleasure. Thanks for hanging out this Sunday morning.
Yeah, good time. I see the sunlight coming out, so today's going to be a good day, Tater.
Indeed it is. I got to get dressed. I think we're going to go to the park.
That sounds right. I think I'm going to sit at home and watch TV all day because I don't have anything else to do.
Oh, that sounds good too.
How amazing does that sound?
Oh my God, that does sound good. Kind of jelly. Anyway, thank you, Jamie. Where can our friends find you?
So again, I'm going to be kind of scarce.
You're on a hiatus.
It's not even a hiatus. Just going to be scarce. I just don't want
treading
to
lightly,
stumbling across. But my Twitter's out there at BatRaider3960. My Letterboxd, I'll still be fairly active in that for a while. Well, actually, not for a while. But I'm just more active in general on there. It's under my name at Jamie Drewley. You can find me probably in somewhat of a restricted capacity in some of the Real Fans groups because they're really good about spoilers in there. But at the same time, I don't want to be seeing people post reactions and stuff like that. So I'm covering my bases here, trying to be as safe as I can about this alleged film coming out. And once again, everybody, if you're interested, check out that J&O Clothing Company. See if you can get yourself a custom Batman comic book T-shirt or whatever you'd like to do. Get a hold of them and give them your ideas and see if you can't piece something together with them at J&O Clothing.
Awesome. Thank you.
That is not a paid endorsement.
No, just a friendly heads up. Well, great. I already told you guys where to follow me. Make sure you are following the Holy BatCast Twitter, though, because, again, we've got that giveaway coming up. And as I talked about 2 episodes ago when Brendan and I talked about collectibles, which, again, was, I think, one of the most fun episodes we've done, I continue digging through my boxes in the garage because I'm on it. And I've been posting that fun stuff on Twitter of like the action figures and toys and stuff that I've been finding. So that's been a lot of fun. So if you want to see some of that cool stuff, go follow the Holy BatCast Twitter. I'm putting it up there. But thank you, as always, for joining us. Please do subscribe or follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. Please forgive my daughter who's getting her diaper changed and
just trying to give her Twitter handle. That's all.
Yeah. She is not on social media, but you can probably hear her wherever you are. Anyway, if you want to support the show, something else that you can do for us that costs $0.00, just rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. Please, if you enjoy the show, just tell tell us by rating and reviewing us. Leave that review. We would appreciate that. Go to holybatcast.com and again, find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, that email address again is holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Our theme music was created by the talented Gaurav Venkateswar. You can find his work at gvtunes.com. And don't forget to check out our sponsors at manscaped.com. If you're going to buy something, use that promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. That'll do it for this episode of Holy BatCast. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
So, what now? You think we should join the Teen Titans? Go on patrol? I mean, what's next for the new dynamic duo?
Nope. Dynamic duo is Batman and Robin. We're Super Sons.
Okay, fine. What's next for the Super Sons?
Well, I do owe you a birthday present.
Oh, well, what is it?
This. Still can't fly.
Harley was so well behaved until we had to wrap up. Then she's like, no, now I'm choosing chaos.
She's just trying to tell you that she wants to talk to me. That's all.
She just wants to be a part of the show. Yeah, she misses Uncle Jamie too, I'm sure. She still plays with her Batmobile that you got her.
Sweet.
She doesn't really crawl into it because now she's kind of too tall, but she walks up to it and uses it like an activity table, playing with all the little buttons and stuff.
So I always recognize with stuff like that there is going to be limited time that it will be useful, but you know, the kids' joy, if they enjoy it for 5 minutes, it's worth it. My only request for that thing is when she's done with it, make sure it gets a good home because somebody else will appreciate it too.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, honestly, I think we're going to keep it because we still want to get her a sibling.
Okay. That's cool too.